Hi guys, so I'm here with Indie by Laura Lee Eagles. She is already sold, but I just need to varnish her and then I'm going to start rooting her hopefully tomorrow. I did already do some satin varnish inside the mouth, the lips, and corners of the eyes, so this is going to be a regular varnish layer, and I am also going to be doing some texture strands on the eyebrows. I am varnishing with Genesis Original Formula Varnish. I make my own mix. This mix is 3 tablespoons matte, 1 tablespoon satin originally. My jar is pretty low now. And I'm just going to move some of these parts out of the way here. We will start with an arm. And I just want to make sure that I mix this up really well. I mix it up every time I use it, but I want to make sure that there's no little clumps of satin varnish so that I don't get any shiny spots. And normally I would do a pretty thick texture layer. I would do Milia in it. My customer likes a more simple, cleaner type of looking baby, so I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to do a little bit of texture, but it's more so just going to be a regular varnish layer. I have a couple kinds of brushes here. I have this small one that I will use to make sure I'm getting any excess from the creases. And then I have this little craft sponge. This is a very small one, and I'm going to use this just to do some texture on the nose. And I also have some cosmetic wedges here. This one I've already torn, but I'm going to use that for pouncing just for some texture. So I'm basically just going to go ahead here and brush this on. I am going over the nails here, but I do want to make sure that I'm not getting texture on the nails. I'm going to go back when I'm done and likely do like a soft satin on the nails so that they have a little bit of natural sheen, not too much, but just a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and pounce just for a little texture on this hand here. I'm just gonna hold it by the flange to make sure that I'm not getting my fingers on it at all. All right, now I'm going to take this brush. It is just a clean dry brush, and I just want to make sure that I'm getting into all the creases. If you have excess in the creases, it can turn white and chalky, and then you have to fix it. So it is a lot nicer to be able to prevent that just by pouncing out any extra there. And you just want to give it a glance over, make sure that there are no lines from the sponge, that you didn't miss any areas. If you do and it's baked on, it is difficult to fix that. You would need to sand it and repair it, so you definitely want to do a good once over. moving on to the next one, I want to get a bunch of this off and put it a little more sparingly on the hands and the creases and things like that. I don't want to put a big blob in here that is difficult to get out. I want to make sure that I'm getting in between the fingers there. And again, I'm going over the nails by making sure that I'm not leaving a big texture there. And I'm just going to go ahead and pounce this area here before I finish the rest of the arm. You want to make sure when you're doing the creases that you are just basically blotting and moving. You don't want to wipe at all. All right, the varnish on that looks good. I am going to bake these, but really quick before I do that, I have one more thing that I do. I am going to do a little texture. I do little fingerprints, and that is something that I did from pretty much day one. I thought it was a really cool idea. I never saw anybody else do it. It's just one of those little detail touches that I like doing. I just put a little more varnish on and just roll this stamp, and I don't know if I can get it to focus on this thumb, but I have a very cute little thumbprint right there. And the very edge where the varnish pushed it, where it pushed the varnish out, I just want to very gently, barely touch it with my brush to just blend it a little bit so that there's not a solid line. These settle really quickly, so I do this right before I put the baby in the oven. If I do it before that and let it sit at all, it will settle and you won't be able to see it. I'm sure I will get people that ask me, this stamp, it is not sold. You can't buy it anywhere. It is not sold. I drew my own design and I had my stamp custom made. And there are little fingerprints. I'm going to put these in the oven really quickly and then I'll do the legs. Alright, so exactly the same thing on the legs. I'm going to start with my brush. I'm just going to kind of put the excess there and do the feet here. I did already do nails, so just like on the fingers, same exact thing. I want to go over, but I want to make sure that I'm not leaving a noticeable texture on the nails. And I'm going to go ahead and pounce. And I want to make sure that I'm stretching this out and pouncing behind the leg there where the crease meets. And I will also pounce back here with my brush and the toes between the toes. She has such little petite little legs here. And you will get to a point with your cosmetic wedge. I don't know if you could see here where it's leaving little lines. That means I have too much excess on my cosmetic wedge there, and that I want to switch to a new wedge. This is the same kind. I had just torn it before I decided to video this instead, so it was already sitting there. And again, I'm going to do the foot and the entire lower leg, and then a bit up behind the back of the leg. It's kind of hard to pounce off back there where you have to stretch it. So if you only do this part and then you do that part and you don't kind of pounce them at the same time, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have to end up redoing that part as far as pouncing your texture goes. You'll get lines there. And I have a little speck of something right there, just a little black speck that I wanted to make sure that I got off. If you do see anything like that, any specks, fuzz, dust, and, you know, anything, if you do not take them off before you put them in the oven, it will be baked into your varnish, and it's very annoying and very difficult to remove them. You can sometimes remove them with tweezers, but then you'll have a little hole. You'll end up having to revarnish that area. And I'm just looking any areas crease-wise that look like I might just need a little bit more pouncing off. And I am going to go ahead and do my little toe prints now. There was a small hair in there. Let's try that again. And it's kind of hard to get a good print on toes that are pressed together, but you know, I do the best that I can. I leave a little notice. You can tell that there's something there, so. These ones are, none of these toes are separated except for the big toe. So I kind of just set it on and move it a bit. All right. All right, those look perfect. I'm gonna put these legs in the oven really quick before it starts to settle. All right, so now it is time for Indy's face. And I am going to be rooting Indy, so I am being careful about where exactly I'm varnishing. You don't want to root over your varnish ever. It can crack and leave these really awful little white holes that end up looking like a cradle cap case from hell. So it's really important if you are going to be rooting, or if, you know, if you're doing a bald baby and you think that they might want to root, it's just kind of an important thing to keep in mind for later. When I get to where I know the hairline's gonna be, like here, if, you know, there is a little bit of varnish that is past that point, so I just want to pounce it out a lot more than I normally would, just to make sure that it is thinner and smoother there. I want to take my regular brush and just hit these creases. These areas where I'm going to be doing hairline work, I am putting varnish there. I am putting a bit of texture there, but I will pounce it out really well. I will also, when I'm rooting there, I am going to be rooting with a 46 gauge needle and alpaca, and I'll root those areas very, very gently. I mean, I root gently anyways, but I'll definitely be taking care in those areas, and I pounce it more as I go out, like I said, to prevent any cracking and white spots with rooting. This is where I'm gonna use my little craft sponge here. I just want a more pronounced texture on the nose over the milia that I did. I did really, really subtle milia on this baby, and it looks 100% better when you do a good texture over it. I am going to take my hairbrush here, and I'm just going to get a little bit of that varnish there. And I just want to paint some really small little raised hairs in that varnish. I did already paint these eyebrows, so really I am just doing the 3D texture strands on top of that now. And I really change my head position. I do them in the same exact position and stuff as some of the hairs that I've painted, so that they look realistic. Like, I don't know how well you guys could see. It might look like I'm just kind of randomly placing, but I'm being careful about the direction that I'm placing them and where I'm placing them. And I just need to clean that off and get some that's a little bit looser. This kind of like the texture are one of the last things that I want to be doing. I'm very happy with that. I'm just gonna get a little bit more. Like I said, I'm not doing heavy texture on this baby. I did not do blemishes. It is supposed to be a cleaner looking baby, but there are some areas that naturally I would want to have a little bit more texture, just for realism, like the forehead here, the nose that I already did, and then just a little bit more on the cheeks and chin. You could tell I'm not going like overboard at all. It's just a little bit more of natural texture. And hopefully you guys can see that. I actually like doing this because I can see this line here in the nose that I just needed to fix. Hopefully you guys could see the milia that I did also with that. I really, really like it. she is not a fan of Milia. She didn't want it, but I was able to talk her into it, and now she loves it. I think she has probably only seen poor quality Milia, like, you know, 6 huge white dots on a nose, and people call it Milia. So I think she was concerned about what it would look like, but she is really happy with how it came out, and so am I. All right, so I think, no, that is not it. Look at, I missed a giant spot right there. I'm not going to put my cosmetic wedge there because I did do a different satin matte mix on the lips, so I don't want to spread it down too far. I want this finish on the lips. So I'm just using my brush to pounce that out. And you could probably see the little texture strands on the eyebrows as well. All right, so I'm going to put the head in the oven now. I'm going to bake all of those parts at 265 for 9 minutes and cool them and bake and cool them and bake a third time. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful to somebody, and I'll see you in the next one.